After a long walk through the forest, the group suddenly heard a sharp crack somewhere among the trees, like a heavy branch snapping in silence. The wind dropped instantly, as if the whole forest stopped breathing. Their hearts began to race. Even the bravest among them couldn't hide the unease spreading inside. Following the mysterious sound, they emerged into a small clearing and froze. A house stood there wrapped in thick mist. It looked old and weather-worn, but what terrified them most was the uncanny familiarity. The structure resembled Nathan's home, yet warped, distorted as if copied from a broken mirror. The windows leaned crookedly, the roof sagged, and the front door hung slightly open, like an invitation or a warning. "Nathan, that looks like your place," Sam whispered hoarsely. "It does, but everything about it is wrong," Nathan answered, staring into the darkness beyond the doorway. They stepped inside. The air was cold and unnaturally still, carrying a lifeless echo. Framed photographs lined the walls. When the friends looked closer, their skin crawled. They showed Nathan's family, but the details were twisted. His mother's fingers too long, a shadow creeping across his brother's face. And in one picture, the whole family stood by a black, tar-like sea. Nathan suddenly vanished. One moment he was beside them, the next gone. They called his name, desperate for any reply, but silence pressed on them like a weight. Then Nathan appeared again. His eyes showed no fear, only an eerie calm. He smiled, but there was nothing human in that expression. It was the smile of a stranger wearing a familiar face. John instinctively stepped back. "Are you okay? Where did you go?" "Here," Nathan said quietly. "I've always been here." They felt it instantly. Something inside him had changed. Someone else was looking at them through his eyes. Panic surged. They ran from the house as fast as they could, unable to think of anything except escape. But Ellie stopped. A woman stood among the trees, the same one they glimpsed deeper in the forest. Pale face, empty black eyes. She approached Ellie and embraced him softly, almost lovingly. Then her arms tightened with monstrous strength. He struggled, gasping, but she held him closer until he collapsed lifelessly in her grip. Sam screamed Ellie's name, but he had no choice. He fled with John and silent, unsettling Nathan, who followed as if nothing happened. They reached their boat, pushed it into the water, and clambered inside, rowing madly until the island disappeared into fog. Only then did the realization hit them. Ellie was gone forever. The house lingered behind them like a pair of watching eyes swallowed by mist. When they returned to the village, they hoped safety had finally found them. But people eyed them strangely, their attention fixed only on Nathan, not a single glance at the others. Someone whispered, "That's not him." Without explanation, villagers grabbed Nathan. He didn't fight, didn't resist, simply stood there, almost content. They took him to the shore, tied a heavy stone to him, and lowered him slowly into the sea. He stared at his friends with that same unnatural smile, calm and wrong. Then the waves covered his face, and the water fell silent. Sam and John could only stand there, speechless. They had lost two friends, but any other choice would have doomed them all. The island remained hidden in fog. The house kept its secrets. And sometimes, late at night, they thought they could still hear a faint whisper rising from beneath the waves, or quiet childish laughter. For 13 years, I kept returning to one strange house on Google Maps, pulling up satellite photos again and again. I won't tell you where to find it, not unless you want something horrifying to notice you. When I first came across the house in 2012, there was nothing obviously creepy about it. It simply caught my attention, just as I was a curious teenager. I don't even remember why I was wandering across the map of an abandoned British village. Hardly anyone lived there. Nothing stood out. But I remember perfectly well what made me stop and zoom in. Behind the house was a garden next to a large stretch of farmland. On the lawn lay a long shadow shaped like a capital T. My first thought, A scarecrow. But satellites usually capture the Earth when the sun is high, meaning shadows are short. People barely show up on those images. And if they do, their shadows are tiny. So it definitely wasn't someone standing with the arms out. Yet the scarecrow idea didn't sit right either. I was a teen back then. My hobbies changed fast. I forgot about that house for years. In 2016, while chatting with my friend Oliver about creepy internet mysteries, I remembered it. We searched for the house again, and something was different. Now there were two T-shaped shadows on the lawn. The original long one, and next to it a new one. Half the size. Odd shadows, Oliver muttered. And they're near the house, not in the fields. Why would someone put scarecrows there? We changed the subject quickly. We were drinking. Logic wasn't a priority. But in 2019, 3 years later, Oliver brought it up again. We opened the map and stared in silence. The second shadow had grown to match the height of the first. A chill ran through me. The look in Oliver's eyes told me he felt the same. He tried joking about it, but I saw his momentary shock. Why were two weird shadows so frightening? They were just shapes, except one of them had somehow grown up. Oliver unlocked his phone and searched the route. 52 minutes, he said, showing me Google Maps navigation. You're not serious, right? Completely. We have talked about this for years. Don't you want to see what's standing on that lawn? I told him no. Something felt wrong. I'm going anyway. Coming or not? He shrugged. I don't know how, but an hour later we were driving there. It felt like someone else was making decisions for me. I only snapped back to myself when the car stopped near the house. A hedge rose almost 6 meters high. Dead silence. Country homes nearby, yet none eased the tension. Seeing the place for real was far worse than on a map. How do we even see the yard with walls this tall? I asked. Oliver smirked. There was a drone in the trunk. The idea of spying on private property made me uneasy, but climbing over the fence felt even worse. I nodded. We launched the drone. The garden came into view. We both gasped. Those weren't scarecrows or dummies. They were people. 2 of them. Bound hand and foot to the large wooden crosses, like crucifixions. One was a young man. He moved slightly, lifting his head toward the camera. On his white shirt, blood spelled a word, bastard. The taller cross held a woman, or rather, a body with straw stuffed into place of arms and legs. Yet she was alive. Only the upper parts of her arms remained, tied with rope. Another word, also written in blood, covered her clothes and skin. We never got to read it completely. Oliver flew the drone closer, then a loud crack echoed. The signal cut. The drone plummeted. A gunshot. A figure appeared in the house window, holding a double-barreled shotgun. I screamed, "Run!" Oliver slammed the accelerator. I expected glass to shatter and a bullet to hit, but no second shot came. We escaped. 20 minutes later, at a gas station, I told him we had to call the police. But Oliver, shaking, insisted we go back and record proof. I refused. He pretended to agree. And when I went inside to pay, he jumped in the car and drove back alone. I called him for an hour. No answer. So I called the police. They investigated. They found nothing. No people, no drone, no shell casings. The owner, a Mr. Tomlinson, claimed the old scarecrows were thrown away long ago. The picture, he said, was outdated. Weeks turned to months. Oliver vanished. In 2020, messages started arriving. I'm watching too. They will never be found. Don't return. You'll be the 4th. I stopped going outside. In 2023, I reread the notes. The word 4th suddenly meant something else. I opened the map again, and there were 3 T-shaped shadows. I know who became the 3rd, but I'm still too terrified to return. I'm afraid of becoming the 4th. Second story, rewritten as well. Same structure and meaning. I found my wife's obituary online, but she was sitting right next to me. I Google random things all the time. Yesterday, for the first time, I typed in my wife's name and found an obituary with her picture. Born 1986, died 2012. I met her in 2013. It listed details from her life, her love for horses, her biology degree, her volunteer work. Every fact was true. She came into the room as I stared at the article about her. Death. "What are you reading?" she asked. I shut the laptop instantly. Later in bed, I found a related news report. She was murdered, dismembered. The killer was never caught. The bedroom door creaked open. Emily stood there, her face hidden by shadow. "I came to check on you, darling," she said softly. She lay down beside me, wrapped her arms around me, and I froze, skin turning cold under her touch. After a long walk through the forest, the friends suddenly heard a sharp crack like something heavy snapping right among the trees. The wind died at once, as if the entire forest held its breath. Their hearts began to pound. Even the bravest couldn't hide the fear that seeped in. They followed the sound and soon stepped into a clearing where a house stood, a house that hadn't been there before. It rose out of the fog, old and darkened with age, yet disturbingly familiar. The facade resembled Nathan's home, only twisted as if seen through warped glass. The windows hung unevenly, the roof sagged, and the door stood slightly ajar, like it had been waiting just for them. "Nathan, that's your house," Sam whispered hoarsely. "It looks like it, but everything here feels wrong," Nathan replied, staring into the dim hallway within. They stepped inside. The air was cold, unnaturally still, echoing like a place where sound itself had died long ago. Photographs lined the walls. The friends approached, and each of them froze. In the pictures were Nathan's family members, but distorted. His mother's fingers too long, his brother's face partly swallowed by a shadow shaped like another person. And in one photo, they posed by the sea. Only the water was pitch black, like tar. Nathan suddenly turned, and he was gone. They called out for him, desperate for even the faintest reply, but silence pressed against their ears like a weight. Then, without a sound, Nathan stepped back into the room from the hallway. His eyes held no fear, only a calmness that felt wrong and cold. He was smiling, but it was the smile of someone seeing them for the first time. Jonah took a step back. "Are you okay? Where were you?" "Here," Nathan answered simply. "I've always been here." Something in him had changed. He looked the same, but inside he wasn't Nathan anymore. There was only one choice: run. They rushed out of the house, stumbling over themselves. But Eli suddenly stopped. In the darkness between the trees stood a woman, the same one they had seen deeper in the woods. Her skin was pale, her eyes black and empty. She approached him and wrapped her arms around him gently, almost like a mother. Then her embrace tightened with terrifying strength. Eli gasped, fighting to break free, but her hold only grew stronger until his body went limp. Sam screamed his name, but he had to keep running with Jonah and the eerily calm Nathan, who walked beside them as if nothing had happened. They reached the boat, shoved it into the water, and fell inside, rowing frantically until the shore drowned in darkness behind them. Waves slammed against the hull. The wind tore at their hair, yet they didn't stop. Only when the island vanished into the mist did they truly understand. Eli was gone. The house faded into the fog like a pair of watching eyes. When they returned to the village, they believed they were safe, but the townspeople greeted them with cold suspicion. Their gazes slid past Sam and Jonah, landing only on Nathan. Someone whispered, "That's not him." Others stepped forward in silence and grabbed him. Nathan didn't resist. He didn't even try to escape. They led him to the shore, tied a stone to him, and slowly lowered him into the water. He looked at his friend steadily, without fear, a soft smile on his lips, a smile that no longer belonged to a human. The waves closed over him, and the sea went still. Sam and Jonah stood speechless, knowing they had lost two friends. But any other choice would have meant death for them all. The island disappeared into the mist. The house remained silent, and at night they could swear they heard whispers from beneath the water, or laughter.